You're listening to the B4evaKool podcast. My name is Rex45.
My name is TJ with Twos and Coffee.
Man, it's a warm one today. The weekend was crazy with a lot of racing in Austria. What's good, man?
And I can say the same thing. It's a little warm up here too for the time of the year, but I'm gonna take all the warmth I can get.
Right.
Well, yeah, what a weekend of racing. I mean, for coming off of a race Silverstone where it's just full out gas and really no hard braking, this track is such the opposite.
Right.
And a lot more fighting here. And then, this track actually was adjusted a few years ago, where they added a chicane after the one. Um,
Yeah, because of
so it's a little different now. So, but it's pretty nice. It was a nice fun weekend, all classes actually.
because of Morbidelli, Zarco, and a couple of
Oh,
flying
I didn't
bikes
want to bring it up.
passing, passing
I didn't want to bring it up. That's
Rossi
still
and
scary to
Vinales.
watch. Still scary to watch that replay of that incident. But this is the track that it happened at, and because of that incident, yeah, no longer. That's a long straight right there where they had to cut it in half.
Well, what do you think about the chicane?
Uh, it, it has it has its bites, it has its ups and downs. I've seen some great passes through there. Actually, Fabio Quartararo had one of the passes of the year. I think first or second runner up, passing I think Jack Miller or somebody
Right.
um 2 years ago. But I think it's a cool chicane. I like it. As you see the new tire change that they upgrade tires for the GP level riders. Actually, all classes that chicane bit them in the dust in practice. First practice go around.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, obviously, it cuts down on speed and for safety reasons and stuff like that. So it is definitely interesting. But enough about that. Um, you know, uh, Based on the poll question, everybody had Bastianini winning, and Bagnaia. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, stats prove don't lie. I mean, he won last year. I'm not sure if he won both races last year.
I don't know about both, but he definitely won the last 3 years, the main race.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to root against him. You want to see others fight because there's a lot of competition. Um, there's a lot to fight for. But man, hats off to Pecco. I mean, he rode a hell of a race, especially in the GP race, the sprint. I mean, it was a dogfight, but he still rode a hell of a race.
Somebody either asked me or I saw it somewhere. Is Pecco similar to a Rossi or Mark Marquez? How would you describe Pecco as a rider? Because if you listen to some of the media outlets, Pedro Acosta, you know, should have been like a Rossi or a Mark Marquez as a rookie. But how would you classify, Bagnaia? Because his entry into MotoGP didn't come with all the hype that Acosta, like a LeBron James, coming into the league, right?
No, I do agree. I mean, I can't say that it's a Mark Marquez thing. I could say it's more Rossi, more of just adapting to every moment, uh, and keeping that focus. It's just you look at the leadership. I think as far as when he probably came in, at the time Rossi was more superior than Mark Marquez at the time. So that was probably more of his idol, I'm assuming. Um, but I think he got his own style that people will imitate, like they look up to Rossi and Mark Marquez. But I would say I'll lean more towards the Rossi side.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would, well, when you say lean more towards Rossi, what do you mean by that? And I will say this because this is how I look at it. Like Pecco's been in MotoGP, I believe, for 6 years, right? So it's not like Rossi coming into MotoGP or back then was the 500 cc MotoGP, but nonetheless came back in and dominated right away. Marquez came in as a rookie, dominated right away. Pecco took 3 years.
Yeah, actually, it's hard to compare because like both of the two are like because Rossi for one made his name by you know his wins and also his celebrations.
Right, right,
Um, that part of Pecco, he's more on the quiet side, but he gets the wins. Like same with Mark Marquez. You see when he gets the wins, he's dancing and he's celebrating, but it's not too flashy. He's still focused. Um, but it's just he's trying to get his wins up so he can, be looked at like one of them as well. I
right.
think
Yeah,
so. He's trying to develop his own.
I agree. He's definitely trying to be his own, and um, to me, he seems like a Jorge Lorenzo. When he's out front, he can manage the race really well. And I think I said this already on the show. He has to make his move in the first lap generally. Not to say he can't come from the back, but him coming from the back is, moving a couple of positions, maybe going from third and getting up to first kind of thing. But he's not like Marc Marquez coming from 14th or whatever place and coming through the pack. He definitely his strategy seems to be something that like he gets out front. If he's not on first place in the grid or first three places on the grid, he tries to get up there quickly. And we haven't seen him really fight from 14th place. And lucky for him that he doesn't have to, because we see with Marc Marquez, him fighting, he's still the struggle is real because he's not getting to first place yet. He hasn't gotten to first place yet on a duck. So with Pecco is interesting because, like I said, you look at him and you think he was doing it from day one, what he's doing right now, but it's really, this is his best year of riding in MotoGP.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so last round he did crash out in the sprint, and he was chasing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do agree. I think his style is to jump out front. So like right after the sprint, I knew that going into the race, he wanted to take that lead, even though that he didn't hold it. Passanini got the win. We're talking about Silverstone,
Right,
but he jumps out in front, to try to gain that lead. So even coming into this race, knowing that he crashed out in last sprint, his mentality is to jump out. So
right,
I think he jumps out and closer towards like the last couple laps is when he'll take a little break and then jump out again, because he's one of those, like I know we talked about some riders who like to be in front and manage the race by slowing down just a tad and then take off, and then someone will try to just take off on you and you give up trying to catch up.
right.
So he won by 4 seconds in the sprint and by 3.5 seconds in the race. So I know that strategy, him trying to jump out, that's exactly his strength, and it's hard for the riders to defeat that, because they can't get in front of him.
Yeah, I completely agree. And listening to his press conference, I think this time was a little different because he he's their game plan is really good, right? Of when he should push, because he pushed in the beginning, but then he also pushed in the middle. And it was a gamble, as he says, because he wasn't sure how the tire would be at the end of the race. But he pushed in the middle to stretch away from Martin enough to manage the rest of the race. Uh, and it's interesting because it's kind of like, okay, well, you're leading, and I maybe tire pressure may have something to do with it, to where he can push more than if he was behind a rider, because he knew he could push, but and he gambled about if the tire would last to the end. But he was also knowing that Martin tire wouldn't last to the end either. So it's kind of weird. Like, well, if he's pushed in the middle, why couldn't Martin push in the middle and they have the same tire consumption or similar tire consumption? But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to worry about another rider during the race, but it's like it's I say, like, some of the riders push and you see them burn out. I mean, it's a lot of riders we know, like see Jack Miller had a great start in both races and then just fade back. And it's just they burn that tire. I mean, it's really hard to manage, I'm sure. Especially with this track was 28 laps,
Something
something
like
like
that.
that.
Something ridiculous.
I mean, a lot of right hand turns. I mean, they had a special tire made for that, but I mean, it was hard to pick the right tire going into this weekend, especially. Um, but yeah, just managing the tire for 28 laps. I mean, it's very tough.
Yeah. And, I will also say this. Pecco Bagnaia, and I said it already, but I'll say it again. He's been at the moment, he's been on a Ducati the longest.
Is that right?
Bastianini and Martin, I believe, came in the same year, I believe, into MotoGP. If anything, Bastianini might have. No, they came in the same year, because I think they were fighting for rookie too. So I think they came in the same year. Don't hold me to that, but I think they came in the same year into MotoGP. But Pecco has more time, and we see the riders with the most seat time in Ducati doing really well. When you look at when Dovizioso and challenged Marquez for the title on a Ducati, he had the longest seat time on a Ducati. And it seems like the riders that have the most seat time on the Ducatis are the ones up front. I would say you kind of see it with KTM as well this past weekend, because you saw Miller and you saw Brad out there as well. Well, and Miller's only a couple of years. Brad's been there a long time.
But yeah, no, I do see that. And I do have a question about this weekend. So, um, with all this testing that's been going on, I think Honda and Yamaha had a test ride, a wild card rider this round, but they ain't gained no points. Taka was the only one that had 2 points going into the Grand Prix. I mean, Fabio was in 12th during the sprint, but that don't count as any points. So, like, do you think it's helping these manufacturers, Honda and Yamaha, with all this testing and all this extra incentives that they got in the beginning of the year? Like, I don't see any improvement.
Well, it's, I won't say any, because I
Right.
think the
Oh, I mean,
times are coming down. I don't think it's enough. It has to be very frustrating for these riders, because I know they're looking at Joe and Mir's looking at Pecco's like, I'm better than you. Right, you know what I'm saying. It's like,
but
there's riders out there that's probably saying but they're not on the right machine, right? They're not on the right package, or believe that, right? I mean, you know what I mean, and so they are making progress. I'm happy to see Mir sign. I'll throw Marquez under the bus one more time, that he should have stayed with Honda and rebuild, because like, they took care of you. Yes, the bike is running bad, but I think you had something to do with that too, because you were testing this stuff as well, and so you know, I'm happy for that. But yeah, I will give them that it is getting better. I think they're getting closer to the top riders when you look at the time on the qualifying and stuff like that. But in a race, I if I had to if I had to guess, I would say the last four races, we'll probably see Yamaha, Honda probably in the top 10. Right.
hope so.
I would have to say in the last, because I think they're making a move. You can see it in it, because you think about this. Ducati have 8 bikes. 10 of those 8 bikes are generally either top 10 bikes. 8 of those bikes are generally Ducati. So if you are Honda, a Yamaha, and you're in the top 12, right? And there's 8 Ducatis in front of you, you got to kind of feel good about that. You know what I'm saying? Next year it'll be a little bit different when there's only, 6 bikes on the grid and stuff like that. But you have to keep in mind that there's 8 of the best bikes on the grid. We do see that that separation happening with the 2024 and the 2023 bikes, but when you look at the qualifying times and stuff like that, and yeah, the Honda guys have to override. But when you look at Zarco's time, Zarco is one of the riders that's like he's chomping at the bits. I think he's going to be a rider that break through. I think Quartararo is going to be a rider that break through out of the Yamaha and the Honda guys. I don't know if Mir and Luca is just they don't want to hurt themselves. You know what I'm saying? But we do see Quartararo and Zarco pulling up. But yeah, it is difficult for the Honda riders. It's difficult to watch. It's crazy to see when they are in Q1 and stuff like that. And for teams, right? What kind of motivation is that like? Like, you know what I'm saying? You're rebuilding. You're trying stuff. Some things are not going to work, and you have to get up every day and believe. And that's hard, man.
Yeah, I mean, they say they got all this contingency, and like Ducati, they literally just going off of each other's times. I mean, you got 7 riders who you can look at as data. I mean, they don't have any test riders. They don't have any, um, you know, special time like the other manufacturers. So it's just, I know every team is improving, but it's just hard to see, especially in this coming into this race. Like not one finished with a good amount of points to help the
Right.
team and
No.
to see results. It's like a failed weekend.
Yeah. It's a strong word, fail, but it's tough when you're on a Honda or a Yamaha. Definitely is. I will say it was KTM's home round. Brad and Jack look really good on the bike. Even Pole looked really well in qualifying. It's nice to see him in qualifying doing really well. In the race, it was a different story. What are your thoughts on KTM, their home round? Shout out to Celestine Viete, who won on the Moto 2 Akiawa KTM bike.
So, I mean, I thought they did really well, especially Jack Miller. Was finally good to see him finally get some top 10 results. I'm not sure if he did that well in the second race, but I think he crashed out.
Crashed out.
But
He was doing well until he crashed out.
yeah, Paul Espargaro, definitely good to see him out there. And it was funny watching him in practice. Like he was getting all, I think he got a lot of new parts or new engine or something
A
like
whole
that.
new
And
bike. That,
yeah, he
that
did
bike
a
looked
fast
like
time.
yeah.
Yeah, he looked really well. I was like, wow, Paul is looking good, but he did a good time. And I'm just like, why isn't Jack Miller getting parts like this? Even though Paul's a test rider, but Jack put in a decent time. So I think KTM did overall pretty well. Uh, Pedro Acosta, on the other hand, had a very hard weekend. Struggled the whole weekend, I must say.
I
Just probably just couldn't figure it out.
right. You,
Definitely got a couple wake up calls with his
talking
incidents, but
right and talking about Pedro, and talking about if Bagnaia is a Rossi or a Mark Marquez, and and you look at Acosta, they were trying to get him to look like a Rossi or Mark Marquez, and at the beginning of the season when the guys on the 24 bikes, regardless of the manufacturer, were trying to get them bikes tuned properly, Pedro was able to run up front a lot. Now that these guys are figuring out the bike more, he's coming to reality,
a little
right?
bit.
And now Fernandez is just like, see, I told y'all, it ain't just me, right?
Yeah. They give that little extra fight trying to keep up, and they just can't.
Yeah,
And that's where the mistakes happen. And you're starting to see it. Even Marquez struggling. It's just those 2023 bikes. You just gotta. I mean, on Pedro's hand, he's still learning. So that's something. It's just another learning curve where, as he can see himself, that in the beginning of the season, he had that adrenaline, and everyone had their same pace that he was can run up front. But when everything is tuned and dialed in, when everything really starts to matter, we see the
yeah.
difference.
We're seeing that, and it is it's clear as day. And for a rookie, I mean, he's still
That
riding
track's easy.
phenomenal and stuff like that. And I assume the people close to him is telling him like, "Don't worry, this is normal," and that's how it should be, right? You look at all the sports; it doesn't matter when you come in and they try to make you the next great hope. It, that's it's they put you on a pedestal that you might not be able to reach sometimes. That's not good for the psyche sometimes and stuff like that. And so what I can tell so far from seeing him on screen, I think he's taken this adjustment with stride, which is most important. But it's MotoGP, man, and like we've been saying from the beginning of the year, we didn't think that these people are just gonna let you come in and just take it. You know what I'm saying? It's like like you know what I'm saying. It's MotoGP for a reason, and and
I
and,
mean, he
and we're
poked his way in though.
second.
He poked his way in. I
He
mean,
he def he definitely did, and
he
don't get me
still is.
wrong, like this is his first year.
Mhm.
He's gonna come back with a vengeance. There's no
Oh
doubt
yeah,
in that. You know what I'm saying? Because you look at Coco Goff and these young people who have come up in the sport and poke their head up right and say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm gonna be an obstacle for you guys that's gals that's already been here." It's nice to see, but they're gonna go back home and do their homework and come back like she's done. And I think that for Acosta, he's gonna come back and be very strong. Um, Personally, I don't. I think it's gonna be really hard to beat Martin, Marquez, Bagnaia, Bastianini next year. But I do believe he'll be. I mean, it took her. She was like 19, 20, and so she had like 3.5, 4 years, give or take. I think it's probably going to take him maybe a couple of years to do that because, like I said, these riders that are at that level, they're not just going to let you come in and just give it to you. So you got to be better than them, and you can't beat that experience.
yeah, definitely. I was also thinking the experience. I mean, I know that he's rode Moto 2 at this Red Bull ring, but riding the GP bike's a whole different level. Sometimes I just think you need more time on a different track. I mean, it's not like they're riding the same tracks all year, so you gotta figure it out right away in the practice session, and that's something that Pedro on hand could not do, and therefore, like the race results, you see, it was a little harder for him. I mean, I think this is probably one of his worst races out of the year so far, though.
I believe so. It was the first one I think that he didn't make it to the Q2, and he crashed a lot.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah, high speed
Yeah.
crash too. Shout out to DeGen Antonio, dislocated shoulder. He crashed out and hurt himself. Ayaguro, recover, come back soon. You got a good one because a lot of your competitors in the top fighting for the championship also didn't do really well this weekend. So you kind of you got to come back soon.
Yeah. It was tough to see Igor get hurt, especially with the new
Contract
signing
and
and
yeah,
everything contract. It's a little spotlight now, so yeah, that's tough to see,
right.
especially if you are the team who signed him, you don't want to see riders get hurt. You know,
You don't want to see riders get hurt. We're gonna jump around a little bit with Moto Two. You don't want to see riders get hurt. You have to sit here and look at Furman though. Ducati has to be wondering now, like, did we sign this? Did we
right?
sign the right guy?
He's been struggling ever since.
He
Like,
has.
ever
Like I
since, like
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say ever since, nothing consistent at all,
No.
crashing out in long lap penalty, well, receiving long lap penalties, crashing out, and I don't know, just always
And then
fighting
just
from
not
behind.
riding good.
Some days, yeah,
Yeah, for whatever
start
reason.
riding good sometimes. Like I don't get. He's very inconsistent this year. I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Right.
That is a hard
Right.
early decision for a team like that.
And it's possible that he could have some animosity, right? Because when he signed that Ducati deal, I don't know if he knew Pramac was leaving, and now that Rossi's team is solidified, I don't know if he's happy going to Grassini. And not to say Grassini is a bad team because Marquez is fourth in the championship. Alex is doing really well, but sometimes you drink the Kool Aid. You know what I'm saying. And he forced some folks' hand to say he had the contract early in the year with Ducati, but now it's kind of like you're on Grassini, and Rossi's getting a 25 bike. You're gonna, Grassini's gonna get 224 bikes, which that's not a problem because the 24 is doing really well. But what I'm saying, I don't know what's going on with him to, cause him to do how he's riding and stuff like that. But like,
What did he expect?
say that
I
again.
mean, I said, what did he expect? You sign a contract years out to go to MotoGP, and they didn't tell you a team he was going to be on. You're just going to be on a Ducati.
Right.
You can't get upset now when it comes down to if that's the case.
I, I,
You should just be happy to be on a Ducati.
well, because you would think that once you got your contract, you can ride free because you're good, right? But he's
Right.
not riding
That's
free.
it. That is another case. It's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what that is. What is going on with Aldeguer?
Yeah, and so
With
with
the
him,
contract.
he really he playing with fire because um like it doesn't matter the sport, like you get there but you got to earn your keep. You don't get there and think people are just going to let you take days off and come back when you want. You know what I mean? You got to earn your keep, and he's riding right now, and especially you look at Lopez. They're on the same bike, and Lopez finished second, and so it's really hard when you're down in the stats like that. So for Aldeguer, he gonna have to figure that out, man, because it's easy to end up like Augusta Fernandez. And I'm not saying here saying Augusta Fernandez is a bad rider. It didn't help him with Pedro coming into the league this year, but also MotoGP expect you to a certain amount of stats if you want to stay in MotoGP.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you gotta produce. I don't know the mental. I mean, it's everyone's on like the same regiment now. Like with the practice, like MotoGP with the practice, the second session. So you got to be dialed in quick, like right away. So I mean, you gotta know that you need to produce stats. I mean, not to throw something in left field, but I was watching, my guy Garrett Gerloff is one of his videos on YouTube, and his coach was like, you got to do good today. He's like, no, you need to have good results today. And
Right.
he came out the first race, he pulled a sixth place. And granted, he didn't do good the rest of the weekend, but I mean, you gotta go out there, and I mean, season's almost over. You gotta throw it out there.
Right.
So,
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree. So for Aldeguer, I feel like he gave up a championship. And that's and I if we're talking about it, and I feel like at this point in time, MotoGP is going to be talking about it. Ducati's going to be talking about it because they're going to be looking at you and see what you're doing. And it's easy to get lost in the sauce. It's easy. We've seen a lot of people that get the opportunity to get on the big stage, and they fumble the situation away, and so that's easy to happen. And the competition level in motorcycle racing at that level is so high that look, Remy Gardner won Moto 2, went to MotoGP for like 1 year, not 2 years, like
Yep.
1 year. You
Gone.
know, you know what I'm saying? So,
Gone next year.
go, you know what I'm saying? Sam Lowe, you know what I'm saying? Went to Moto, like, they're Ika Luka Ono, you know what I'm saying? They're
What about
really good.
Darren Bender? Did Darren Bender win
Exactly.
Moto 3? He went to
Darren Brandon went from Moto
MotoGP.
3 to
Right back.
MotoGP. You know what I'm saying? And I think Darren might have had 2 years. I think he had 2 years.
In GP?
In MotoGP, I think so. I think he had 2 years. If I think
I don't
he was
think
on
I know.
RNF for 2 years. We can look it up, and or folks can comment and let us know. But I think Darren was on in MotoGP for 2 years. But even still, like 1 year, 2 years, not enough, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, like, because you need a year to really kind of get used to the bike, and then also depending on the manufacturer and where they are and so forth. So it really takes a few years. And I've complained about what Tech 3 did with Ika, Luka Ono, Remy, and Sam Lowe's, right? Because Sam I think was on up earlier, and so I think the principals and the team owners needed to give these riders some more time as well. But my point is this: that like you can't assume that you got a job waiting for you. You can't assume that you're just gonna stay. So I think for and I'm a big fan of Furman Aldeguer. I do believe that you know when Acosta was in Moto 3 and he was in the European series and running, I do believe he was a better rider. When they both came into Moto 2 together, I still believe that he was a better rider than Acosta. And they were friends. They grew they practiced together and raced together as young kids. But I think that Acosta is taking, treating it more like a business. And I'm not quite sure if Fermi is doing the same thing, and it's unfortunate because he's a talented rider. Like Lopez, talented rider. It's good to see Celestine racing the way he's doing right now. Talented rider, right? These, Jake Dixon, talented riders and stuff like. Not to say the rest of these people are not talented in Moto 2 and stuff like that. But if you've been following the series for a few years, you can see it. So to see like dude, don't like you should be finishing top 5 and feel bad if you're out of the top 5.
Yeah, that's especially the performance that he put on towards the end of the last year and getting his
Exactly.
name out there. Like uh, signing with Ducati, that's a big deal. It's not like you
Huge.
sign with Honda, even though just signing to MotoGP is a big deal, but sign to like Honda or something like that, it would have been a big deal, but not as big as Ducati. And the performance this year has just not been it. Yeah, so maybe it's one of those things where you just can't wait to get off the bike and onto a new project type thing, or uh,
Catching attitudes now, like whatever,
yeah,
bro, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, the suspension sucks, whatever.
yeah, must be
And
it.
who knows? But like he has to be mindful. That's all I can say about that. Um, Bagnaia,
I want to say that.
Bastianini, Jorge Martin, Elish. These are all guys that's been on the podium this past weekend. Marquez crashed out. Marquez finished fourth. What are your thoughts on the sprint and the main race? The three guys that are out front. What are your thoughts?
Let me see. Let's go back to the GP sprint. So I thought, um, that was a good fight of that race. Like I said, it was a good fight between Jorge Martin and Bagnaia. Aleix came out of nowhere to stay up front. Like I said, Jack Miller was fighting. Mark Marquez, as I predicted a week ago, I wanted to see him win because this was his track. And he was just a little too aggressive, and I'm tired of seeing him treat the bike like it's a Honda. I mean, he always says like it's okay if I crash. Like, come on, man, we need you to finish. Um, so yeah, I wanted to see him up there, and he wasn't. So
Yeah.
Pecco stole it. I thought it was a really good race. It sucked to see Martin get a long lap penalty, but it's a tough track.
It is definitely a tough track, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Marquez needs to simmer down as the song goes, and just cool and just learn to duck. It's different. Hey, look, I don't know what it's like to be 30 years old, fighting for my ninth world title, wanting to be, the second best, if not the first best, if he can get 6 more titles and beat Giacomo. Who knows? So I don't know what that mindset is like. And but the thing is this, bro, learn to bike this year and you can win 2 in a row. We don't know what's going to happen when it goes to 850, but you can win 2 in a row. And I don't believe, look, is the 20, I'm going to ask you this. Is the 2024 Ducati leaps and bounds better than every other bike on the grid? And before you answer, if your answer is yes, and you believe this, then and if you believe this, shouldn't Marquez and the rest of the people believe it as well and just do the best they can instead of trying to beat that bike?
Wait, you said is the which bike the best on the grid?
If the
Which year?
2024 the GP24, Ducati GP24, if that's the best bike on the grid, and if it's the best bike on the grid by leaps and bounds, meaning that you see where these guys are finishing on the 24 between Bastianini. I mean, Morbidelli's have some really bad luck, but if he didn't have the bad luck he had, you'd have 4 bikes above the other bikes on the grid. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. I mean, I don't want to say it's leaps,
Bro,
man.
this last weekend,
Yeah, I
leaps.
mean,
If you if I got more than 2 seconds on you,
what year is Bastianini on? He's on the 2023.
24.
You on 24?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So definitely, it is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and now to think about it, Mark is a smart rider, and you kind of see, not to bring him in, you can see the panic in him where he's starting to do these tendencies where it's bringing him back to his old ways, instead of just learning the bike.
right.
And he said it's because he's on a 2023 bike. You just see like the updates or whatever, the new update that 2024 bike must have received. It just must have just put it ahead
I,
by
I
a
don't
good margin.
I don't think it's fair for him to say that. It's like, oh, give me the 24 bike, I'll be winning. I don't
Yeah.
think so. It's like because I'm no Mark Marquez, right? But I rode twin cylinders from 2012 to 2015 on the street, on the racetrack. And I remember moving to an inline 4, and it took me like a year and a half because it's just a different characteristic. Now, granted, the Duck and the Honda are both V4s, but they're different bikes. And we see Vinales struggled, and he's been on 3 different manufacturers, right? We've seen Rins struggle. We've seen Mayer struggle. We've seen Jack. So and we've seen Rossi, right? And granted, the Duck back then was a bad bike, but you know what I'm saying. Nonetheless, it's like it still takes time for you to just get a feel of the bike. You know what I'm saying? And even the best person still is going to take some time to get that feel. And I don't know if Marquez has given himself the time to get the feel versus just blaming it, saying, oh, if I had a 2024 bike, oh, I would be this. Because the Gian Antonio, when you look at the times, the Gian Antonio has really good times. you look at Bezek. Well, you look at I guess Dylan John Antonio is the only person besides Mark Marquez because Alex Marquez and Bezecki's kind of been struggling. Yeah, I don't. I'm not buying that. Oh, he needs to be on a 24 bike. Um, to alleviate the problem because I do think that he has a lot of tendencies still with the Honda, and I don't believe he's freed himself of those tendencies. Those tendencies, not even bad. It's just different. Those tendencies when he's on the duck for him to say, "Oh, if I had a 24, I'll be right there," because Martin struggled when he first got on the 24. Pecco struggled when he first got on the 24. Pecco struggled when he first got on the 23. I don't know if Martin struggled on the 23 as much as Pecco did, but definitely, they struggled. And where Bezecchi, Gian Antonio, some of these other riders didn't struggle as much on the 23. Oh no, Bezecchi did struggle on 23 as well. So I don't know if I think it's easy for Marquez to be like, oh, give me the 24 bike and I'll be good. No, bro, I think you just need more seat time.
I mean, I agree with that actually, 100%. I mean, a lot of people were also saying when he was on Honda, when he signed with Ducati, and they're saying that's all he needed. And like we say, we still see the same tendencies when the when when the heat gets on, when the pressure gets on, when you gotta go. Especially like in the second race where his ride height device didn't deploy.
Right.
That messed them all up, and then Morbidelli came up and tried to steal it, and he is like, "No, you ain't taking
Right,
that," and
right,
pushed him
right.
out.
Yeah. And
It's
Morbidelli's
just like,
is blaming him for that, but you're right. You know what I'm saying? But again, that's experience, right? Because
yeah,
I don't know if you caught the interview and Bagnaia is like, yo, bro, it takes me like at least 2 to 4 times to get that device right. And he pointed out like Martin waits till he get to the line and gets it right every time. So it's not everybody can get it right every time. Oh, apparently no one can
I,
get it right
I
every time but Martin.
I didn't know that you had to jam on the front brake and like
Yeah.
stoppy, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But to engage it. So you saw him try to like push down a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Yeah, so I think for Marquez, it's nice to imagine fighting for the title this year, and it's nice to talk about it. And I do believe I'm gonna use these words. I do believe he weaseled his way into a factory seat, but when you look at it right now, at the moment, does he really deserve the factory seat?
I mean, like you said, and it's a long season. So in the
Because
beginning of the year, his fight, I could say that it was looking promising. Right now, as he's going back to his old tendencies, I mean, he just needs to flip the switch, figure it out and show why he's on the factory seat
right,
for
because
next year.
his claim
And
his claim to fame is coming through the pack, but
and
Bastianini does a better job at coming through the pack than he does.
oh yeah, I mean,
It's just because he's Marquez, they're talking about it. But you look at the stats, Bastianini does a better job coming through the pack.
that is for sure. And Bassanini has 2 back-to-back wins this year. Mark Marquez has actually a lot of second places he got in the beginning of the season, but
Yeah,
so
but you
far
like
lately,
Like Pedro, right? That's what I'm saying. Like
Mhm,
once these other
exactly
riders figured out the bikes, they're now
hmm
stretching him out, or
right.
they them out because I think Acosta's in the same boat as Marquez as far as like those guys haven't figured out the bike in the right way, like Bastianini, Bagnaia, and Martin.
I mean, Marquez did put in a nice fight at the second race. Obviously, he had to do a little comeback again. I mean, I would be satisfied where he's at right now, just being on a new manufacturer. I mean, you're in fourth place. I know he's always just like, no,
Oh
first
yeah,
is it, but
want to win.
it's. I mean, he has to learn the bike. Like, what else do you have to look for? Like, if you look at the season now, you're down almost 100 points. I mean, yeah, you just gotta learn the bike and just stay consistent. Stop worrying about trying to chase other people's. times or trying to um, steal positions. I mean, that's racing, but
Right.
it's just it's becoming too much. You could see that it's needed more for you than others.
Exactly.
It's
I
just
I completely agree, and with that, we can call it right there. Let's shout out the sponsors, man. Tell people why, and who they should check out.
I mean, you should always check out Official Vortex because they serve great chain sprockets and all that good stuff. And J&G help service bikes, street and track, and Woodcraft Technologies. That's all the good stuff, all the goodies for your bikes. Um, and Hideaway RV Rentals, where you can get a RV at the track and have a good night's sleep. So,
Oh man, that's the best part, having a good night's sleep. Workbench Technology, go to Workbench Tech. Send them an email. They can help you out. Go to B4evaKool.com and sign up, subscribe, and get your latest gear. Go to All Gas Products. Use the discount code B4evaKool10 and get your discount and get some parts and all that fun stuff. We always try to save you. Keep it locked. We're doing a giveaway starting in September for track gear, helmet, boots, glove, suit. You know what I'm saying? For new riders and experienced riders, hopefully just new riders, but anybody can win it. So keep it locked for that, and there's more details going to come on that. For all the folks out there that are liking and subscribing and commenting, thank you. And for those that haven't yet, please subscribe, please comment, please like, tell us what you're feeling. My name is Rex45.
and my name is TJ, and we got racing in a week. And
No
we at
doubt.
Aragon. So, see y'all soon.
Peace.
Peace.